Okay, so relationships and ownership. So recently I came to think of the idea of what marriage is. Because Mia and I, my partner and I, we are going to get married. And we had a wedding in Bali, which was a old Celtic tradition of hand fasting, which was more in a spiritual sense than in a legal sense. Now we're doing it for practical reasons, not that there isn't any love anymore. On the contrary, we're experiencing a whole new honeymoon phase from the conscious relationship that we are working on and are present in. So relationships and ownership. What marriage, traditional marriage in religious sense, is built upon is ownership. And it's passing on ownership of both woman and child, and passing land and finances. And that is what it's built upon. And that it's never resonated with me, the thing about ownership. The thing about, like, so for instance, you come into a relationship and you're in the honeymoon phase, chemicals are flying around. For men, it's 10 to 15 times more sexually arousing than for the women. And that's a generalization, but just to put that into perspective. And so that's exciting in the beginning. And then then you hit the curve. And the curve is to getting each other, knowing each other more intimate, and details around each other's lives and habits, routines, and seeing deeper in each other. And we all, in some sense, are aware of that we put a certain mask on in a certain relation. So the closer people get, the harder it is to keep that mask on. And you can call that mask what you want, ego, whatever. But it's a set of circumstances that you've experienced through your life that creates who you are, or this character you perceive to be. So when coming into a relationship, if this character is, every time you walk out the door, you wear this mask, but when you get home, you sort of like take it off. And in a relationship, it is inevitable to meet that thing. And if one haven't had like a conscious awareness of who they are, they'll just take their habits, they'll take their whole way of being into this. And then is what I believe firmly is what it's all about, relationships. It doesn't have to be romantic. It doesn't have to. And talking about romantic relationships, Hollywood has pretty much shown us what that's all about, and that's just not reality. That's not the purpose. The purpose isn't like for now and ever. There's nothing is forever. Nothing is constant in this beautiful universe we live in. So the illusion of that something is constant, that we meet rainbows and butterflies, and then that's how it's supposed to be the rest of our lives. No. The going into a relationship, that's when it all begins. We start having the rainbows and butterfly, the honeymoon effect, Bruce Lipton calls it, 3 months, and then the work begins. Then we are able to see each other on a deeper level. And that is when the trigger starts to hit. There's something wrong with him. There's something wrong with her. And you start to get into these arguments about nothing, about consequences, about tiny little things that annoy you about the other person. And why does that annoy you? This is where you have the opportunity in all these relationship experiences you've been through. Like every time you will attract the same thing, unless you shy away from people coming too close and actually revealing these habits you have of maybe pushing people away, because when they get too close, there starts being all these things wrong with them. All these little things that are wrong with them. But grasp this, especially for men, because it's very difficult for men to go into an emotional space and actually take that stuff in. Grasp this for men. Like we have this identity, And if a woman comes close, we gotta let go of some of that identity. We've gotta look inside and start wondering why we act the way we do. And this is the potential of a relationship, man and woman, man or man, whatever. The potential is to grow. The idea of a relationship, a conscious relationship between two people, it has to be evolving or else it dies. Because if we go status quo, then we die, you know. It's the purpose of the universe. It's the purpose of a tree. It doesn't ask why. It just grows up against the sun and down, rooting down into the earth. So when moving into a relationship, it's important that we have some grasp of ourselves, that we have some idea around our triggers. And every time we're triggered in life, it's just a mirror to where we have the opportunity to grow. Because a lot of these triggers is something that is rooted from childhood. It is something that is rooted in us, that when we always try to point a finger outwards and blame somebody, it's just something that is stuck in us. And it can be such a great emotion. And we can, identify more and more with not taking responsibility. And this is the ownership part, taking extreme ownership of all we are into a conscious relationship. So every time we have a trigger, every time we feel like pointing a finger, instead of taking responsibility, of taking ownership of our emotions, especially as men, then we are actually not fit to be in a relationship, because we're not even fit to be in a relationship with ourselves. It's easy to sit on a mountain and meditate all the time and be at peace, but being in a relationship demands that we open up, that we show ourselves. Because if we keep on hiding and never go into the conversations around issues that might be in the relationship, or habits or things we see again and again, annoyance starting to build up in these things, then we're eventually, at one point, we're going to get so angry and frustrated with the world that this comes as like a state of being. So we have to acknowledge, look, accept that we actually have the opportunity with a person that we initially fell in love with, all they were. And in time, all they were might become an annoyance, because it keeps on getting closer. We keep on getting closer to the potential of who we are, the potential of who we could become with each other, completely without any veils, just being pure, honest, emotional, angry, sad, happy, showing everything to that being. And if we keep that away from each other, we will just be playing game. We will just be two masks talking to each other, and just acting out of our habitual inner child, which is just a set of routines we learned through our childhood. So we need to break through that and actually see the conscious relationship as a great opportunity. Even if you're not in a conscious relationship, just see the relationship as an opportunity for all the hurts you have or the blaming that you have to actually go talk to your partner about it. Open up. It's a safe space. That's the idea. The dynamic. You give and receive. And that all leads to becoming more aware of who we are, who we actually are, and creating our own structure, our own mindset, our own being. But we gotta rip that other thing down, or else every time we go into a relationship, we can be blaming and then jumping from one person to the next person, every time they get close, or every time there is a trigger, we might not be able to handle that trigger. And the more we push that away, the more we go in life and don't look at these triggers and actually take full responsibility of where the fuck does this come from? Why do I react this way? And maybe say, here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity to grow. So all these challenges are just opportunities to grow. And it's not easy, waking up to that reality, to take full responsibility. But in time, if you do not take the challenge, you will become miserable. You will look at all your issues and ignore them. And then the divide between you, just because you got a ring on your finger, it doesn't matter. But you could also, like the divide, then you, too subtle to numb that voice, to numb that pain, to numb those triggers, to numb that person getting close to you, start drinking, looking away, looking to hide, going into the mountains, going out with friends, you know, social media, porn, jerking off. You know, there's a lot of substitutes that will help numb just somebody coming close, because somebody coming close means that you have to take a look inside of what you're feeling and let your emotions swivel around in you. And that is quite challenging for a lot of people, me included. It's been a long journey, but from where I stand today, I allow everything. And I know I speak around these subjects again and again, but it is of utmost importance for me to remind myself all the time around this, so that when I am in a relationship with my sons, with my wife, it is from a place of great gratitude. And whenever my son triggers me, I know that he is a limitless being and I am only putting limits on him. So whatever he's expressing, if I cannot hold that, then I have some sort of limitation within me. And then we might go into discussing parenthood, what that is, and raising kids, as I so often love to say, because we don't raise kids, you know, we raise cattle. But cultivating that extreme ownership, and that ownership is not what a relationship is. We don't own each other. As soon as we do that, we limit each other. Say that if you meet a person, you have a great spark with a person. You just meet that person and you're like, oh my God, there's something here. Oh, I can't, because I got this ring on my finger and it says I can't even be intimate. I can't even have a conversation around how I'm feeling with anybody else than my wife. How limiting is that perspective? And would that be the idea? Would that be the idea of going into a relationship, that you can't share yourself at all with others? And even on an intimate level, I'm not talking about sexual intercourse. I'm just talking about sharing ourselves, to explore ourselves. The more we explore ourselves and create the new self that we want to be, which isn't just habit and, you know, habitual thinking and just like responding to the world constantly, reacting to the world and not responding to the world, then, you know, you might want to open up to some more people in your life. You might want to see, is here a safe space? Do I feel something that just excites me about this person? So instead of blaming them, going over, having a conversation, opening up, becoming vulnerable. As soon as you become vulnerable, you open up to so much learning. Easier said than done, especially for us men. It's taken me a while, and it took a partner that can just keep on expanding herself for me to be able to be in communication with myself. So no matter how much I kicked or screamed and tried to push her away, subconsciously trying to push her away, the more space she created for me, and that created love for myself, and that is a place of deep gratitude that I come from, and the potential of a relationship, and looking away from the mainstream and looking into what actually potentially lies outside of the romantic Hollywood movies. And the Hollywood movies is, for me, a limitation of what all this is about. So this is about immense beauty and joy and pleasure, and yeah, so much more than the instant gratification of jerking off to a Hollywood movie. All right, I put that out there. Okay, be well, and love to hear your comments and thoughts around conscious relationships in general. If you want to talk, if you want to reach out, you're more than welcome. I have my fair share of experience, and I love to share from that. Be well. All the love. Peace.